planet is up against the clock, according to an international panel of scientists. It says governments must dramatically slash emissions to affect change, and they only have 12 years to do it. Average global temperatures have so far risen 1 degree above pre-industrial levels. Countries have committed to limit any further warming to 2 degrees, but the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says that's not good enough, and they warn the world is on track to shoot way past that threshold. Average temperatures, the report says, could spike as much as 3.4 degrees this century. This week's report says we need to cap rising temperatures at 1.5 degrees. To do so will require, quote, rapid, far-reaching and unprecedented changes. It means cutting global emissions by half by 2030 and reaching net zero emissions by 2050. If we don't, scientists say extreme heat, drought and floods will put hundreds of millions of lives at risk. So, are the targets set by the federal government going to be enough? Joining me now from Vancouver is the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, Catherine McKenna. Hi, Minister McKenna. Nice to see you again.
Great to see you.
Thanks for your time. A new UN report says the world, and specifically Canada, needs to set more aggressive targets to lower emissions. Will your government do so?
So this report was sobering. It was really showing that it's not just about future generations, why we have to act on climate change, that if you are talking about a child that's 10 today, if we don't take serious action in 30 years, so when they're 40 years old, they're going to see the huge impacts of climate change, everything from extreme weather, heat, droughts, floods, food shortages. And so we absolutely need to act, and that's what we're doing as a government. So we have a plan, and our plan is working. Our emissions are going down. At the same time, we're growing the economy and creating jobs. And that's everything from investing in historic investments in public transit to phasing out coal, to looking at how we built and making sure that we're building to net zero building standards. We're making sure social housing is energy efficient, and working with cities to adapt to the impacts of climate change. So it has to be an across-the-board approach. But I think the sad thing here in Canada right now is we're seeing conservative politicians that don't seem to understand that we need to act on climate change, that we need to be serious, that there's a cost to pollution. It's not free. It's actually impacting all of us in Canada, around the world. And there's a huge economic opportunity. And that's the part that I think we also need to focus on. Absolutely, we need to act. And if we don't, there will be dire consequences. But for countries that position themselves well, that are able to find those solutions, it's an opportunity in the trillions of dollars. And I've seen Canadian companies across the board that are coming up with innovations that are making a huge difference, that are creating good jobs here. We're exporting those solutions. And also, I mean, Canadians from all over Canada are being more energy efficient in their houses, and that saves you money. You insulate more, you use a smart thermometer. So there's ways we can all contribute. But we all have to be serious, and we all really need to work together, because it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, you live in the north or the south, you're a farmer or you're a business person. Climate change is impacting all of us, and we need to come together as a country, and we need to act. We need to act for our kids, and we also need to act so we can also grow our economy and create the jobs of the future that we want.
So, Minister, my question was originally whether your government will amend the targets to be more aggressive in line with what this report is saying. You didn't answer it. Will your government change the targets that you've set, which this report establishes are not enough to do the kind of mitigate the kind of damage that they are projecting will happen?
So we know we all have to be more ambitious, but the first thing you need to do is actually implement the policies that you've talked about. We've had many targets over the years. The Harper government had a target and did nothing to meet them. And so we need to actually do the things we're doing. We've said we need to do. A price on pollution, we're working hard on that. Phasing out coal, investing in public transit. So we are doing those things, and the Paris Agreement is intended so that every 5 years you come back and you look at how you can do more. All countries around the world have to do more. But first thing we need to do is actually do what we've committed to doing, which is actually making the reductions, putting the policies in place, having programs to help Canadians be more energy efficient, save money, invest in public transportation, invest in all these companies. So I think it's really about showing progress, which we are doing, being really diligent every single day, working really hard, and then, of course, looking at how we can be more ambitious. We're focused on investments in nature. Our budget last year was a big nature budget, $1.3 billion in nature. Protecting more of nature is a way to tackle climate change.
Minister, according to your government's own submissions to the UN, your current and your plan that you've put in place and the projections for that plan get Canada 66 megatons short of the original goal it set. So when are you going to introduce more?
As I say, we already have a plan, and we already know what we need to do.
But if that plan isn't going to get you to the targets that you've set, that's what you're criticizing the Conservatives for doing, the previous Harper government for doing. So what's the point?
No, our plan will get us to the target. It's just that as you go, we're talking about a 2030 target. So we know what we need to do. It's just being smart about which policies. So in terms of, investments in nature, public transportation, the actual reductions you're going to get, the innovation reductions, we have a plan. It's across the board, and that's what you need to do. There are, you have conservative politicians saying you don't have a plan. No, the emperor has no clothes. They have no plan. They have no plan to put a cost on pollution. They have no plan to work on with Canadians on reducing emissions. And they also have no plan to grow the economy. We do, and it requires a lot of diligence, and it requires working with provinces, it requires working with cities, working with hospitals, with schools, with businesses, and that's exactly what we're doing. We announced our plan at the end of 2016, so it's been a year and a half in. We're making those investments. We continue to work with Canadians, and internationally we're pushing extremely hard. So we've started the Powering Past Coal Coalition. We know countries around the world need to commit to getting out of coal, and they need to have a plan to do that. So with the United Kingdom, we're working on getting more members, more countries and businesses to commit to that. So it's across the board approach. But it's
so are you saying that all of that, just to be clear, are you saying all of that will make up for the 66 megatons that your government said to the UN you would be short in meeting the targets?
We're not. So I just want to be clear. We're not short that. We have said these are all the measures we're going to do, and we're going to decide what are the most cost-efficient measures as we go forward. So as I say, like we've just announced, we've got $1.3 billion in nature. So that's where we can get additional reductions by the innovation piece. But we have been diligent every single day. Like when you put a price on pollution, you get significant reductions. When you have an electric vehicle strategy, you get significant reductions. When you invest in public transportation, you get significant reductions. But you need to have a plan to do that. You need to implement it. And of course, as we go forward, we want to be more ambitious, and we also need to be working with countries around the world.
When you say you want to be more ambitious, Minister, do you mean that you're open to increasing the carbon tax beyond the levels that you've set so far?
No, I mean, what we've said is our approach is putting a price and recognizing there's a cost to pollution, but also using other measures. So other measures like phasing out coal, like making sure that we, have a net zero building strategy, like all these other pieces to it. There's not, one size fits all approach. So we are taking an approach that makes sense, that also makes sense for the economy, and working really hard every single day to do it. But as I say, I mean, there's some people who want to use as an excuse, it's hard and so we shouldn't do anything. Conservative politicians seem to think it's okay to say we're not going to recognize the cost of pollution.
Is that really what they're saying, though? It's hard, we're not going to do anything? Or are the provinces, for example, that are opting out of your plan saying that we don't want to put another tax on people?
So no, they're saying that they don't want to recognize the cost of pollution and they don't want to put a price on it. And in Ontario's case, they have no plan. So basically what they've done by killing the previous plan is that they're increasing pollution by what's equivalent to opening 30 new coal-fired plants. That is like the absolute opposite direction of where Ontarians want to go. I've met Ontarians
except for they voted for Doug Ford. And he said, I'm getting out of cap and trade. I'm fighting the federal carbon tax. And they voted him in with a strong majority.
Well, you know what? All I can say is, first of all, we were voted in on a plan to tackle climate change and grow our economy. We have. We've created 700,000 jobs. Our economy is the fastest growing economy in the G7. We've got record low rates of unemployment. At the same time, we're tackling climate change, and our emissions are going down.
Okay, I have to leave it there. I'm out of time. Thanks, Minister McKenna.
Okay. Thank you.